Hey everyone, and welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversations at Home. I'm your host for today, Scott Mantz. Now, before we get started, just want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA performers who are in urgent need as this pandemic continues. Since March of 2020, the foundation has given over $6.1 million in aid to 6,500 performers and families facing extreme hardship. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and you need help, please ask. If you are able to help support our community and this crucial effort, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce for the film First Cow, which has been named Best Movie of 2020 by the New York Film Critics Circle and the Florida Film Critics Circle. Please welcome Orion Lee. Hello, Orion.
Hello.
Well, I got to ask, I have been sort of on this journey with this film for 15 months since it premiered at the Telluride Film Festival. But what I want to know is, how did this come about for you?
I remember coming to the US because I was based in London. I came to the US for pilot season. But my manager got me to go there before pilot season, do a few meet and greets. And then I came over pilot season, and I remember sitting there for about a month, and I didn't get one meeting, one audition, and I was quite disappointed because the meetings were great. Everybody was very positive. And then I was like, oh my gosh, maybe the US isn't for me. And then my manager got me this casting for First Cow, and then I was, doing my research, and I was like, oh wow, Kelly Reichardt, and I'd just seen her movie Night Moves. And that I thought was fantastic. It's a slow thriller. I've never seen a slow thriller before. There's no explosions, no car chases, no, it's guns, no things exploding, and it was amazing. It was like I was on the edge of my seat for the whole movie, and that's when my first sort of impression of her work, and I thought it was amazing. And yeah, so I really wanted the job, although I really want every job, so you always audition with that hope. I feel like auditioning sometimes is like it's like falling in love. You have to go in wholeheartedly, and then you hope, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. But I guess as actors we work with emotions, and we know that emotions come, emotions go. But the important thing is to feel it fully, I guess. So it was 2 scenes. I worked on the scenes, and then sent it off, and then Kelly said she liked it, and I was like, yes. And then we had a Skype conversation for about an hour and a half about the character, her vision for the movie. Then I redid the scenes. She gave me 1 or 2 notes via email. I redid it again, and then I got the job, and I was like, yes. And then immediately imposter syndrome set in. I remember thinking, because I was like, I'd done leads in stage before, but this was my first lead in a film. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh. And then I made the decision to break up the film, as it were, into scenes and approach it that way, because I was sort of a bit daunted by the whole film. But I've done scenes before. I've done so many scenes before. I've done scenes which have been taped. I've done scenes with friends. I've, as practice. I've done scenes at drama school. So I just cut it down to each scene at a time, and I just approached it like that. And with auditions and with every scene, you work on that one scene because in my past I've been just working on one scene, and so you put all my energy and effort into that, and I create the backstory, and I understand where I'm coming from, where I'm going to, and I wanted that intensity for each scene. I didn't want my attention spread across a film.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sort of dealt with my imposter syndrome by just having that attitude. I'm just doing a scene, and this is the scene. I've done this all my life. Most of my life, and it just so happens that I just did one scene, and then the next day I was doing another scene, and then another scene, and another scene. But it was always, my concentration was just scene by scene. Long answer to your question, sorry.
No. Hey, I have a whole list of questions here, and you just answered
Great.
5 of them, so we're good. But Orion, I want to ask in terms of your points of connection to play King Lu, like what were the actual ways that you related more and approached the character by your points of connection to the character?
Good question. Because I do think acting is, I read somewhere someone said acting is using the parts of yourself which are relevant and then adding bits and taking bits away. And I myself, was born in Hong Kong, lived in Malaysia, moved to Australia, then moved to London. In between, I've lived in San Francisco and in Switzerland for about 3 months each, and New York. And so I'm quite the traveler, quite itinerant, and King Lu is as well. I don't think of myself as much of a salesman as he is. He's kind of part salesman, part con man. It was how Kelly mentioned him. And my initial thoughts on the character was that actually he was very quiet. That he was quiet and soft, and Cookie is quiet and soft. And to me, people have more, like they bond because of connections, not because of opposites. I don't really believe opposites attract. But Kelly was very keen on the two characters being very different. And my character is an amalgam from the adaptation from the book of two different characters. So Cookie was kind of set in that sense. But my character was more made up. It was because it was an amalgam. And so she wanted my character to be more of a salesman, more outgoing. And it took me a while to sort of reconcile my initial feeling that this character was quiet and soft with her vision of the character. And I came to it basically by deciding that if King Lu had another kind of life, he would have grown up a quiet, soft character. But because he was an itinerant, because he left home early and this is all made up, but he left home early from China to go, onto boats, sailing around the world, and that was his life. And he had to adapt to each new culture, each new circumstance, just to survive. He got a whole bunch of different skill sets to be social, to fit in, and during that he became the salesman, the con man, and to such an extent where that is who he is. He's no longer, you can't see it, but to me, when he and Cookie meet, they're it's a bit romantic to say this maybe, but their souls meet and their souls recognize each other, even though over that whole period of time, King Lou's now a completely different person to Cookie. But like I said, their souls kind of recognize each other.
So let me ask you a question. So when you're talking about developing this whole backstory, did you come up with all that on your own, or did you discuss it first with Kelly, and did you sort of flesh out his background together?
No, Kelly. I mean, I did discuss a few ideas with her, but Kelly sort of leaves you to do that work for yourself, really. And she's more she concentrates on what's in between those, the beginning and the end of the script. But she's always there for you if you need a bouncing to bounce your ideas off. But really, that's my work as an actor, and for me to create and to fill out the character so that it has that sort of depth. And I know where each kind of motivation is coming from, each movement or inflection.
The connection between Cookie and King Lou is really authentic, and it feels very genuine and organic. Meeting John Magaro for the first time, like, did you feel that there was going to be a connection, or did you sort of have to work around it and just sort of like feel your way through until you found the right rhythm, the one that you found in the film?
You know what? I've been thinking about this, and I think the secret possibly to chemistry, at least to our chemistry on screen, is to a certain extent because we didn't really talk about the characters to each other. We didn't really talk about the scenes to each other. But we were both open and, how do I say this, considerate actors working with each other. And so we did spend 3 days together camping out in the woods with another guy who was a reenactor, and just sort of showing us a period and showing me how to make weed rope and things like that. But during that time, we didn't really talk about the movie, just hung out. And that was very helpful. But we didn't discuss the movie. So when we got on set, as an actor, I had to really listen and watch what he was doing. And I guess he did as well. And because we both would never know what each other was going to do in the scene. And I think maybe that's what really comes across, two actors just listening to each other, two people just listening to each other. And although my characters, usually saying something or other, and his character, and we're all both constantly working on something, or sometimes I'm resting more, my character's resting more than and his is working more. But as actors, we were always listening to each other and working with what each other was presenting. And so I think maybe that's the secret, actually, because we didn't really plan out, you do this. And of course, Kelly Reichardt's amazing direction, and the way she sets up the shots. But yeah, I think it's just our training, you know, as actors to listen to each other, to work off each other, you know, in the improvisation bits, you know, to say yes and sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, that really does actually lend the authenticity to the relationship, because it doesn't feel like it was over rehearsed. But as far as Kelly, what makes Kelly a great actor's director?
Oh, it's me. Her notes, any note she gave was golden. It was so good. Gosh, so to me, so many things. Like if any of you are watching this, if you get the opportunity, you have to work with her. And if you're one of the more famous people watching this, you should be calling her up. So I think, yeah, first of all, her concentration is, her intelligence is amazing. So when she's watching you, you have that confidence. You're working with a seasoned director, but also somebody who's really looking and listening. So, you know, not only as actors are we looking and listening to each other, but the director is looking and listening to the performance. And you know, when you've got the confidence that when she says, okay, cut, we've got it, let's move on, that she has, you know. And then, you know, she does that, I did notice she does this amazing thing that really good directors do, which is give you options and make you feel like you like everything you say is being listened to, but at the end of the day, you're always just doing what she wants you to do.
That's right. He's calling the shots.
Yeah. But no, she is very open, and she sort of, because my character was more outgoing and more of a salesman, myself as a person, I shifted more that way, and because possibly, I don't know John beyond working with him on this project, but possibly because his character was soft and quiet, when it came to conversations with the director, he didn't really say much to her, but I was constantly coming up with like ideas and like, ooh, what about this? What if we could try that? And she was very like just kind and patient with me because, you know, I'm one of the things was that I had the utmost respect for her and her decisions, and I constantly asked questions. And because I wanted to, and anything she answered, I accepted. But I constantly asked the questions because I respected her. If I didn't respect her, I wouldn't ask questions. But the problem is that when you ask questions, you are questioning. And to a director, you can come across as questioning their direction. But she always took it in the spirit, right? So I don't recommend actors go out there and ask questions of the directors. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a good idea, but she was very, you know, like I said, patient with me, and she understood where I was coming from. And yeah, gosh.
When you said that you came up with some ideas, like what were the ideas that you gave her, or that you had, that she was like really receptive to?
Well, the one thing that pops into my mind straight away is, if you remember the first meeting with King Lu, he's telling a story about how his friend got attacked, and he took a gun out and shot at him. My hesitation here is I don't want to spoilers but
Yeah,
I
good.
think it should be fine. So basically, I said to Kelly, look, I've got two versions of this.
Mhm.
One is where he's telling the truth, and one is where he's lying about parts of this. And so one, he's telling the utter truth all the time, and one, there's bits which are true and bits which are lying. And she said, yeah, let's see them. So when I say let's see them, I mean like in the sense of the take. I'll shoot one and we'll shoot the other. In the end, to be honest, I don't know which ones she edited and which, it was a subtle difference between the truth and the lie.
Mhm.
So that's one example of where she said, okay, because a lot of times we only had like one take or two takes, and then we had to move on. So I specifically asked for this one to have at least two takes, because I had these two versions. To me, I thought it was kind of important to have these two things, because I think with King Lu, I was hoping anyway that the audience would never really be sure whether he was embellishing the truth or not, because he is a salesman. Con man, storyteller.
But he is charming. So I never doubted him. Like, as the viewer, I took him at face value. If he said something, I believed it,
Right.
So yeah, it's a fine line to walk, but I thought you did a great job. And in terms of having maybe one take, maybe two, if you got lucky, where did you shoot and how fast was the shoot?
We shot on location just outside Portland. There's so many fantastic locations. I think most of the time we weren't driving more than about 30 minutes. And we were staying in Portland. So it was, the landscape is amazing, fantastic. I do remember though, that last scene in the film, the light was going down, and it's a very important scene, I thought, and I was like, this is the final scene, the light's going, oh my gosh, how many times can we do this? I'd like to do it a lot. So I think we did it once, and then because there's a lot. Comparatively, there's a lot of those, like we had to set up the shot where we're walking through, and then the point, and then we're sitting down, and then the moment where King Lu's sort of thinking just before he lies down, and as we were shooting the walking bits, it was already getting a bit dark, and I was like, oh, it's getting dark, and then we did another one of those, and I was like, okay, and then we did another one. Other ones, and then finally we got to the bit where sitting down thinking, and I was like, okay, I can barely see you over there with the camera. Can you see me? And so then we did do it a few times, but I was like, I can hardly see anything around me. It's so dark. But that's the genius of Christopher Blauvelt, the DOP. It's amazing. You just said, "Don't worry, I've got you," and that was a bit nerve-wracking, because it was like the final scene, and I was like, "Okay, let's have all the time in the world to do this," but no, it was like, but and Kelly knew what she was doing and what she wanted, so yeah.
So this is your first lead in a feature, outside of the theater work that you've done. So what were the big takeaways for you moving on to the next one, especially working as a lead in an independent film where you do have to move so fast?
Well, firstly, it was what I said at the top, which was like, if any of you have the same situation, or if you ever feel imposter syndrome, to me, it's just work on scene by scene, because you know that you've done that so many times before. The other thing the thing that did pop into my mind, which I was a little bit worried about with that approach, was the idea of the character arc. You know, and the sort of consistency of character. But to be honest, in the beginning, actually, this reminds me that Kelly did say to me that she likes to exist in a spot where she doesn't quite know whether she's told a story or not. So she said, you know, I want you to not to be free to just be and not feel any responsibility at all to tell the story. That's my responsibility. Mm-hmm. And in any case, I like to exist in the spot where I don't know whether the story is told or not at the end of the day. Because I have a very intelligent audience, and you know, I respect them, and I want to have that feeling where sometimes I go, oh, have I told a story? And that gave me the confidence to use my approach as well, which is go scene by scene and not consider the character arc. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is also, I think, then the audience can decide. The audience can decide for themselves who this character is. Is he a shyster? Was he lying or not? Or was he being honest throughout? Or you know, just, and different people, I think, and that's a great thing about Kelly's films. It's like a work of art, and or you know, we go to see a painting on the wall. It invites the audience to provide that other half of the interpretation, what was happening, why it's happening, and that's, you know, to me, Kelly's works are works of art, and by saying that, I mean that also the audience is invited to provide their half of what the film is. So yeah, I guess the main thing was work scene by scene, let the story carry you. When I say let the story carry you, I mean the script carry you, the production carry you, and so don't worry about telling the story. Yeah.
Well, you know, just one last question is, you know, the film is getting a lot of recognition now as being one of the very best movies of 2020, which it is. What's your take on why people are connecting to this movie? Like, what are people like, what are they embracing? What are they falling in love with?
You know, I can only go by my initial impression of reading the script. So going back, way back when, and I got the audition, I read the script, and, you know, I went through it. And to be honest, just reading the script, I was like, okay, yeah. And then I reached the end, and just those last 3 words in the end, you know, you've seen it, you remember. And I started crying, and I was like, what happened? Like, why am I, like, I just read the script and it was fine. And then bang, and then I remember feeling it now. Like, and I think, you know, that's, again, this is this amazing thing which Kelly does, because I think I think the film reflects a friendship. Mm-hmm. And the structure also reflects a friendship, in the sense that when you know, a lot of movies are about love and that, you know, you see someone and then they're like, you're so amazed and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, I want to be with them, and this, you know, if the equivalent of like explosions and car chases and because this is wow, boom. But with friendship, you know, if you think about your friends that you have, the first time you met them, it would have just been like, hey, oh, hi, my name's Orion. Oh, okay, yeah. And then, you would have left, and then for some reason you might have seen them again, or you might have called them and said, hey, let's have a coffee or something, or whatever. Okay, cool, yeah. And then, and then it goes like that, and it's just like, oh, okay. And then you reach a point where, you know what, if that relationship ended, it would be a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And the film kind of does that amazingly, right? You watch it, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that's quite kind of interesting. Oh yeah, okay. And when you reach the end, and it stops, and you just feel that loss.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's amazing. She's made a film which reflects that, in the structure which reflects that. And so I think, we connect with that. We realize that, and then we think about our friendships and how important they are to us, and how much we would miss them if we ever lost them. So
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ryan Lee, for joining us. And thank you to everyone for watching today's SAG-AFTRA Foundation conversation on First Cal. Happy New Year. Stay safe. And until the next conversation, here's looking at you, kid.